reflect on the ride. I reflect on my mind. I don't regret anything that caused my soul.
Hey, Composing Gloves here, and today we are going to be talking about a rip bass in Sytrus. Sound design with Sytrus. This is what I got. So as you can see, it's got three main modulation type things. They're all quite sharp, and the patch is a little involved. So I'll probably try and make something, but it very likely won't turn out like this one did, because it was sort of a lot of just fine tuning things. So I knew I wanted something that sounded like it was gonna rip. It's got two parts. So for me, a rip bass is something that literally sort of is similar to ripping something. Like you are ripping a piece of paper, or you're ripping something. So there's two parts. There's this part with this sort of serial fashion modulation happening, and it's going through filter 2, which is going through a wave shaper, and that's getting put out. So it sounds like this. And then there's this other part that is just it's just basically a separate sound. Oscillator 5 is being put out, and it's being modulated by 1 and by itself a little bit. So it's a sine wave, which means we're getting a saw wave series from this, and that saw wave, so essentially a triangle wave, is being modulated by this. What I'm unsure of is, I believe it gets modulated by 1 first, and then 5 then modulates itself, or 5 modulates itself, and then 1. The block diagram just sort of says, here we have our operators and our modulation, but I'm unsure of the order it's happening in. And so I didn't really like listen for what was happening, because at that point I had made this sound. I was just looking for a layer, and I knew I wanted something similar to a saw wave series being modulated. And this was just sort of an interesting experiment. Gave me something I liked. So here's that sound. And now if you're wondering so we have modulation X and modulation Y. So on mod X and Y, these knobs right here, they're being moved around in all sorts of weird directions and things. I wanted to create a really interesting spread. And so these operators are all linked up. Some of them are linked up to both of them in unusual ways. So see, this one's X and not Y. And so that way I could get a unique spread as I go across. Now that third one is the wave shaper mix. So if we come over here to the wave shaper on 2, we've got a wave shaper, and it's doing its thing. And the mix wave shapers are like super aggressive. So this is a shape I've settled on, and I originally was messing with the filters. Didn't turn out quite so great. So let's talk about the construction of these two separate parts first. So together, you get like that. Man, I really like that bite at the top end. I really wanted it to be a sound all in Sytrus. I didn't want to go anywhere else with any post-processing. So I'm pretty happy with the results. One is a regular, I left it at ratio 2. And I took the wave shaper, and it's between, I believe it's a saw wave and a pulse. So I settled between that. And it's being modulated by 2, which is just a triangle wave at 2. 3 is modulating 2, which is a triangle wave at 1. So with 2, and let me turn off the wave shaper. Okay. Man, that is still, let's just do this. Okay, so here's 1. And now here's 1 and 2 being modulated, 2 being modulated by 3. Oh, I know what it is. Is this all the way up? It's so confusing at this point that I probably can't isolate things without screwing things up pretty good. So I'm just gonna tell you. So it's modulating 2 and 3. 3 is getting modulate. 3 is modulating 2. 4 is at 0.0002. So this is a very common low ratio type experiment. I went with 2, and it gave me more bite when I turned the modulation up, which is what I was looking for. In reality, it's moving the modulation up and down, so it gives it a little more life than this sort of stagnant pulse from being too fast for us to tell the difference. If that means nothing to you, you need to go watch my low ratio in serial video in FM, Learn FM. So those 3 are getting, modulated to create this really interesting modulator. It's essentially modulating 1. So it's one big, crazy signal modulating 1, and then that gets sent to filter 2. Filter 2 has been turned off, and the wave shaper has been turned on. And this is the shape I settled on with it. So that's it without, with, you know, just out straight. So not that interesting. And with it coming out filter 2, we get that thing. And this is a big deal because when I move the wave shaper now, let me turn these two off. And let me turn these up. Is the wave shaper moving? Yeah, it is. I do not know why the wave shaper's not moving, but if we turn it all on, you will hear it doing its thing. Unless I somehow lost the automation clips no longer attached. So right here, you get a doon, and then you hear the doo. So it's kind of complicated because there's all these sub rhythms, but I guarantee this is doing something. Then that's like not the best example, but anyways. Okay, now 5 is a pretty simple relationship. It's a 1, 5 is 1. It's being modulated by 2 and by itself. It is, I was going for sort of a sub undertone for it. Without it, you see it sounds a lot more trebly. So this gives us the bass. And is also responsible for some of that bite on the top end as well. Kind of a nifty relationship going on there. And that is pretty much it. So let's make something like this. And we will hopefully come across something rather similar. So right off the bat, I know I want to make some sort of a rip bass. And I'm going to just mute these. And come over here. Write out my own pattern. On a different pattern. Cool. All right, so to do this, I need this at the beginning so I can hear what I'm doing. Okay. So right off the bat, I want to go into one. And I was going for a saw wave. I really wanted to use a saw wave, but I found out much later that it got kind of way grimier than I had anticipated. So I'm looking for a rip-like texture, right? So I'm going to go ahead and set that up. And I know that stacking them will create a rather dramatic texture. I'm going to hook 2 up to Mod X. That's something I didn't explain on this patch, which things are going where, which mods are headed where, and what the relationship is, which I guess I could do. One is, so the volume, nope, not volume. Volumes, yeah, volume's linked to mod Y. That's another thing. I'm linking mod. The mod tab separates it from being modulated by other sources. The volume tab turns the volume off, which is like the same thing, only the mod tab is cool because it keeps the volume there, so just from the ground up. So here I've got the mod and the volume hooked up to Y, and neither one hooked up to X. Here I've got, it's confusing because they are inverted when you go over them. Here I've got it in a reverse relationship with the volume going down and the mod going up. And on the volume, on the mod X. See, this thing's just a mess. This is stuff that I just sort of, in the moment, I had more reasons for doing it that I can't really explain right now. So anyways, we have that. So isn't that beautiful? We're going to turn on 4. 4 is going to be a really slow guy. So you can hear 4 sort of doing its job. If we make it a bit faster, it'll begin to wobble more, but it'll also muck up the sound with the down, with the up and down and up and down. So I don't want that. I want to avoid that. So I'm just going to leave it where it's at. I'm going to make these triangle waves. And I'm going to make it so that 2's volume is hooked up to X, but I'm going to make it so 3's volume is hooked up to Y and its modulation is hooked up to X. This way, when I move X around, it'll separate 2's modulation. So it will essentially stop my chain, is what it's going to do. When X is all the way down. When it's up, it'll bring my chain back. But when it's up all the way, it will essentially, on the Y, it'll go away. So it's just creating an interesting spread of textures, essentially what it is. And on 4, I am not going to, I'll do something interesting. I'll just do this just because I can. I want to do it on the. I'm gonna do it on the volume because I'm not gonna use it. I don't think anywhere else. I'm gonna turn this off and I'm gonna send it out to filter bank 1 and turn the wave shaper on. Well, first let's hear it, I guess. That's what I got. So my filter's on. So filter's off now, and the wave shaper's now on. I've got some sounds like aliasing going on, but I like it sort of. So, and it's a very small thing. It creates sort of a little buzz at the top, which is not a bad thing. So I've turned the filter off, turned that on. We are first going to automate the mix, the wave shaper mix. So first, let's just do something. We'll go do. We'll go do, and then we'll do a rise, and then one of those. Wow, down, whoops, down. A hold would be kind of cool. Down, whoops, and down. That's cool. So let's hear it. Cool. So I'm not moving the volume or anything, so it's only going to control that timbre, the wave shaper mix. It's not going to like remove my sound. So it's just something for variation, why I do this, which is why it was so hard to hear on my original patch. But I was like, I promise you it's making a difference. But I guess in the end, if you can't like hear a difference, when it was all flying, I felt like there was a pretty substantial difference. Maybe you disagree. So that's 4. So let's go ahead and move this around. And you see it's also the wave shaper is much more obvious when our modulation goes up. So let's create a mod X and a mod Y. And I tend to do X on top and Y on the bottom, I've noticed. And so I wanted to go boom, whoop, Well, that's just a wow now. I don't even know why I did that. And then we'll do wop. Yeah, we'll do a long rise up. So here we go. Now we'll add in Y. We'll give it some less intense rhythms. Dun. We'll go. That last part, look at that. That's like they're stacked up. I did not do that on purpose, but it sounds cool. So that's pretty nifty right there. Now we got this upper end thing going on like I did on the other one. Now we need a bass tone. So I'm going to output 5 because I'm not using 5. I'm going to make it 1. So we got our bass, but it's like, it is too, it's not, it doesn't fit in the sound. So I'm going to make it fit better. So I'm going to make it a little bit of a saw wave, and then I'm going to modulate it by, well, you know what? What did I do with 1? I left 1 as a different shape this time, but I'm going to modulate it some by 1. I'm going to listen to it while I'm doing it because I know this is going to be a touchy move. So that's a pretty interesting thing we got going on right there. That is cool. Now for 1, I want to make my sound a bit more clear. So I'm going to hook its modulation tab on X up, and I will hook it up on Y a little bit backwards. I didn't do this last time, but this will just create. See, Y, X was too aggressive. I need to bring it down some. And on 5, I'm going to do the exact opposite on X. That's on the mod, though. I want it on the... Be careful if you double these things up, because I believe they add up. So on 1, I feel like I did a bad move on the modulation. See, so we're getting places. We're going places. On the X tab, let's make it a bit of a curve. And let's. I had smoothing on this whole time. Smoothing will clear up our rhythm as well. So I like that. I might consider moving it around more, sort of getting something that I like, maybe a tad more, but it's pretty there. I might consider on 2 linking up. Let's see here. There's a particular tone I'm not the fondest of, and it's in the modulator series. It's in this part. Let's make this down an octave. I like that more. When I had it up, it just had that twangy, like it sounded like a sort of a distorted triangle wave that I was not the fondest of hearing. Find a cool drum loop, add that in there. We need something more intense. Something more intense than that. Come on, Black Octopus. Impacts drums. 128, what the heck? Or you know what? That sounds pretty cool. $110 is not the correct. There we go. That sounds better. But now my rhythm's like not gonna fit that. This is more of like a drum and bass, like do da do da do da do da do da do da. One of those. I think I have loops for those too. I like to make my own loops because mixing loops is like sometimes a nightmare. It's just not easy. So at least I think so for certain occasions. Dance, electronic, brick school. Nope. I thought I did. Maybe I was wrong. Acoustic drums, electronic drums. Some of these are so weird. I don't even know. So anyways, if you have any questions about this, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day. Hey, Composer Gloves here, and today we're going to be talking about how to make a sequenced chip sound. Now you might be saying we've already covered chip sounds. Well, you're right, but there's a cool thing you could do with sequencing inside here. It's an ARP. So here's what I got. So it's kind of an interesting